It's episode number 56. We're just about to get started here. Just waiting for the game to boot up. I'm just making a few tweaks to our stream, make sure everything runs nice and smoothly. Now listen, I've downloaded a new mod, Near Future Technologies Launch Systems. We should have some larger rocket parts, as well as some new engines and some new adapters. So I'm looking forward to seeing how that plays out in terms of our build designs. We'll have a lot more options to work with. Of course, another mod means more content to load, a little bit longer load time, but we're already up there so high that it will be almost unnoticeable. Transferring the Hoffman. And just a few moments, we'll be ready to run. Now, last night we got into we were working on a few things with the recovery vessel, and I got an idea on how to radically redesign it, make it so that it will be an extremely efficient vehicle. And that's what we're going to work on this evening. We're going to start with working on heavy lifter recovery and see if we can't make it so that the thermal engine will have a single mount point and then connect it to two side mounted plasma engines, which should allow us to have hyper efficient burns in space. So we'll basically ride the thermal thruster up, and then in space we're going to rely on the efficiency of the cryonic engines. Oh, not cryonic, plasma engines. All right, here's our intro music. Apparently, from my understanding, they actually improve the ocean shaders on this. So loading up our Twitch campaign, we will skip right over to the space plating. Hope you guys are buckled in for a long night because this is going to be an exceptionally long stream today. Saturday night. I don't have to go to bed for another 7 hours. Unless I want to. But hopefully, guys, will keep you motivated to stay awake and keep cracking. All right, so let's take a look. We got some new parts. First off, I think I want to take a look at those and see what they look like. I think that's been there before. These are mostly going to be rocket body parts. That looks new. I think it's a 5-meter part. This is where we should start getting into new fun stuff. Already had the cryonics. Already had those clusters. Okay, so no new engines. So most of this is going to be then adapters and thrusters. Ooh, we may have a lot of new thrusters. That looks good. What's the strength on those? 2, 4. Wow. Where does it mount? They mount into the internals of the craft. Internal nozzle. Fascinating. Heavy RCS block. I love those. Oh wow, they're huge. Oh, Nertia, you have done just a magnificent job this time. I wholeheartedly approve of your creations. They're not quite as potent as these Power 12 verniers, but still amazing. Or the HX models there, and the HX. Oh, I didn't even know I had a reaction. I definitely should put that on there. The recovery vessel, because it's an HX body. Interesting. Combined thruster and electrical generator. A huge charger could be useful. That Space Cat's letting us know she's lonely. You sound so hard done by. Mama's gonna get mad at you if you don't quit. Yes, let her in, dear. What? We have Commander Eclipse now sitting on the back of my chair. He demanded attention and she has got it. Ooh, I forgot we had new science toys. We should really go harvest that new science soon. Now this is where we should have the real fun stuff. What is it? Come on, Space Cat. Look up top here if I want to catch you. Oh, wow. Crazy kitty. So here's one of the new adapters. Goes from Mark 3 to Mark 5, I think. Maybe Mark 4 to Mark 5. Meter second adapted to 3.75. Aggressive slopes. Yeah, you can say that. Cool storage container could be useful. Collecting science data. All these beautiful new adapters. I don't think I've unlocked some of the new stuff yet. It may simply not be far enough. I really like that they broke it down into more categories, though. Biplane wheels, I forgot we even had those. Well, these wheels don't work. Right. The landing legs aren't properly represented here, like these. Power storage. And ground construction, one of my favorite portions. This thing has me curious. I'm wondering what size it is. Looks like it's probably smaller than the old labs. Do a side by side. Wider but shorter. Able to do a whole lot more. Look at it, it's got all this stuff built into it. It's kind of sweet. You wouldn't need an antenna on a craft like this that has it exposed. And plus, it can be used to create parts and build things. That counts as a construction facility. Base cat's finally settled down in her chair. Right, so let's take a look now. Recovery vehicle. Now, I studied this a lot last night trying to determine how can we master this design. What I've determined is that we're going to have to completely overhaul the shape. Of the back end. This is going to have to go. That entire section is going to disappear. God, this is going to be pain. We want to duplicate it so we don't screw it up too much. But it's necessary. The problem. It's all that goodbye. That's being relocated. Wow, this thing's going to be huge. Okay, that doesn't fit the way I thought it did. These do. Hmm. Some of you may be wondering what I'm doing. If I knew that answer, I would tell you myself. That looks weird. What I need is an adapter. Three point oh or yeah, 3 point something diameter, 7.5 to hex. That looks like it works. Weird. Why is it still not the right? The interior diameter is still not right. Still not quite right. Probably because it's an exact size match. That actually works a lot better. 4-way pins, but on a diagonal instead of the vertical axis and horizontal axis. That allows kerbal egress and escape, as well as makes for a lot more room for the components. Why is this not mirrored? I have no idea. And then there's the other problem. This is too short. This is looking really good. Alrighty, let's check the bottom of the graph real quick. These should be mirrored. They are. Alright, let's see what we got. Hey, Cool Cat Twin, welcome aboard, dude. Okay, so now the question is, will that pick up as it gets more airflow? There we go. Now, my only question is why in the world is it wobbling like this? Oh, this is not going to be good. Or now there's something up with the landing gear, or there's something up with the SAS. I'll have to check it out and find out. It's wobbling way too much. We also need to set the turbofan in the middle to only run on atmospheric power instead of liquid fuel. Explosions! Let's say physics calculating it. There's so much to go boom there that it'll take forever to resolve. This is definitely going to work, just a matter of tweaking it. I also need to check its new chute configuration, see if the chutes are going to land nice and flat like they normally do. We're going to be doing some rigorous testing of this craft before we send it on actual missions, but it looks like a very promising configuration. Alright, our landing gear are higher in the back than they are in the front, which is the way it's supposed to be. Might nudge it up just a little more. I like that. It looks like the SR-71 Blackbird. Also possible that this craft is heavier than the wheels can handle. I doubt it. These are awful large wheels. Do we have an SAS on board? It doesn't look like we do. That could be part of our problem. I think the Hex has an actual SAS we can use for it. Yeah, we just need to rescale it down to the appropriate size. Where's the center mass? It'll be most appropriate right in here. I want to slide this out just a little bit so that flap isn't going to get caught on the edge. Try this again now. What you think of it, cool cat? Interesting design. It is burning atmosphere. Boy, is it taking time to spin up, though. We are receiving thermal power. We do not have any waste heat. That's not going to be enough to get us off the ground. We're going to need a jump start. Come on, get that thrust up. You know, if this fails, I'm going to put a large Tory ramjet right in there. And that can probably replace that entire engine segment. Although why it's wanting to lean to the right, I have no idea. Oh, it's not going to make it. Conclusion: thermal ramjet is not powerful enough to actually get us off the runway with the current power output of the reactors on the hill. We're going to have to use something with a dedicated reactor. Fly off the keyboard. Although it does occur to me that I do have an Xbox control pad that might be causing it, so I just got that and make sure it's not stuck. That unfortunately also is not working, so we're going to have to go with an old reliable that has its own dedicated reactor on board. Because this guy is not doing the job. Fine. think we can leave that. That would be way too big. This one's new. Where's the Tory? It does 300 too, just like the other one. The other one is in line. See what modes this has on it. Yeah, the only problem with this thing is the scale that we need it at is going to be way too big. Let's try this instead. We're going to use the inline receiver still. But we're not going to use the thermal turbojet. Or ramjet. We're going to use the thermal turbojet. May need a slightly bigger wing. Whoa. Now the fun part is finding the core of this wing so that you can move it. There it is. Let's see how it flies. Or more importantly, if it flies. It's very well possible we may not have enough nuclear heat generation yet to power these engines appropriately. This one's this one's getting some good thrust on it. Why is it wanting to list left and right for? That's what I want to know. What fuel is this using anyway? Okay, yeah, it's atmosphere. Well, it flies. Problem is, I think it's probably still too heavy to get anywhere. Happy Friday, Teague. We're going to keep this design. Even though I can tell you right now it's not going to work because it's simply too heavy. It'll be great for like if you put it into orbit on a boost stage. But it's going to get nowhere in atmosphere. Not unless you turn on the dump mode, the afterburner, which look at the rate it's consuming oxidizer and fuel. That definitely won't make space at that type of consumption. Now this thing is actually getting its power from all the way back there. There's a microwave and an infrared laser beam that is hitting this here. Yeah, I'm getting about 1 megawatt right now too, but that's, or 1 megajoule, but megawatt, megajoule. The input power is 1.074 megajoules, but that's definitely below what I want it to be. I haven't got the. My problem is that the tech isn't advanced enough to get the generators to generate enough heat and power to do the job. So I need to get more science, and then I'll have a much better SSTO ability. For right now, I'm probably going to send this thing up as a shuttle type craft with boost assist. Because once you get something like this into space, it's going to go for quite a distance. These plasma engines are just amazing. Not to mention the ability of this thing to burn pure liquid fuel. As soon as I cut out the main booster engines, it just starts slowing down dramatically. Doesn't help that we're getting so high into the atmosphere that the turbojet's starting to cut out. And I have no idea why it's wanting to rotate. Why is it doing that? You don't have enough power to you. I figured that out the other day myself. I had the PVC ablative engine also. And the first thing you have to do is you have to get the engine to where it has line of sight to the power platform. Usually that requires jumping it from the launch pad using a booster. And once you get it up to about 5,000 feet, it'll be able to see if you place your power plant nearby. The bottom of the engine will be able to see the power plant, and then it'll start picking up power. The problem is if you don't have enough power, then the ablative won't burn off. It won't actually ignite. It has a threshold, a limit of the amount of thrust it must generate before it kicks in. I'm trying to figure out what's causing the side-to-side surface drag. And I am now out of fuel. Well, except for atmosphere, which we will never run out of. Alright, so now that we got this thing semi-empty, what I want to do is a crash test. We're going to see how well it'll perform when exposed to recovery conditions. We need to fix those forward parachutes so they're not deploying so early. That's the first thing to fix. And it no longer appears to be landing level anymore. We need to put more chutes towards the rear, it looks like. What you need to look for, Teague, is when you're launching it, when you get the ablator active, there's going to be if you right click on the ablator, there will be a little category name that says angle of view or angle of effectiveness. And if it's 0, that means that it cannot see your power plant. If it's anything above 0, it means it's seeing it at that efficiency rate. If you got anything above 70, 80, then you're getting most of your power from it. But if you don't, then, well, you're not getting anything. I can show you what I mean in just a minute. Most important factor, does it break apart when it hits the water? Negative, smooth recovery, so it doesn't matter. Everything is still in one piece, so this thing would be a great rescue vehicle. So what I've decided to do now is I want to try this with an actual reactor on board. just to see if the performance is any different. And let's do this with a turbofan first. The turbojet, see how much more power it generates, if any. Now this time, instead of using beam power, we have power coming directly to the craft from a nuclear reactor. It's just the salt reactor though, so I don't expect anything too extraordinary. The engine's not coming on. This isn't going to go well. Kaboom. For some reason, the toggle for shutting the engine down and turning it off didn't actually toggle the engine. I want to check and make sure I actually set it to toggle engine and not just shut down. Beautiful explosions. Look at all that confetti. We could have explosions for days, but physics really isn't liking that many parts going up at the same time. So in order to avoid a crash of the actual game, yeah, let's just go ahead and backspace. Hangar. Firework vasectomy. Welcome to the stream, dude. They do, but I haven't got many of them unlocked yet. Oh, that's the problem. It wasn't toggle engine. This is the other weird thing. Why in the world is it wanting to drift like this? These controls are somehow inverted. Oh, I see. They're meant to be. Why is it wanting to veer to the left constantly? And how am I generating so much heat and getting so little thrust out of this engine? Oh, there she goes. Okay, so conclusion. Reactors are currently insufficient. Look at all the confetti. That's not going to save anything. Too low, too fast, too heavy. You can't see what's exploding for all the parachutes. Hey, kept the cockpit intact. They lived! I think I may know what part of our problem is. At least for the aerodynamics portion of this issue. So we've confirmed the reactor works worse than beam power currently. Mainly probably because the beam power is actually generating 2 times the amount of reactor power because it's powered by 2 different fission reactors. So the beam power is going to beat this every time. For right now. Alright, so in terms of our aerodynamics issues, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to trim these. Come on. And then we're going to set modes. That will hopefully solve most of our aerodynamics issues. mean, the plane looks good overall. It's just it's not going to work in this format with the nuclear engine, at least not until we get its thermal power production upgraded. And let's go ahead and just make the same flat changes to recovery 2 here. The good news is that based on Recovery 2, we know this format is definitely sound and will do its job once we have power upgraded. So we're going to keep this for the future and the knowledge that one day it will fly. Just not right now. All right, so what we need to do now is let's just check out our mission, see what we need to do to make progress. Oh wait, firework! I promised you last night on the stream that I would show you the refinery and get it to the moon. So let's go ahead and actually do that. Now this is going to be a simulation. It's not an actual mission. I don't actually need a refinery right now. It's just a demonstration of capability of a particular craft that we will be using in the future once we're ready to start building our moon base, which won't be too far off. My primary goal is to get a functional base plane and then start working on the colonization of the moon. And by space plane, I mean that not only will it take off from the runway, it's going to land on its tail. Firework already have to leave? Oh. Let me check see if he's still around. He says he's going to be here in a second, so he's going to come take a look at it. Alright, so this is the giant mining rig that I built for the moon, and emphasis on the giant part. We have 8 drill rigs, 4 landing legs, loads of thrust, very large vector nozzles, and we've got new RCS controls courtesy of Nertia and the new near future launch systems pack. And I am probably going to integrate a few of those into our design here. This is the one that we can take to the moon, yeah. However, I want to do one thing about this. I need more boosters. The only problem I kept having with it was that it's a little bit on the heavy side, so it likes to run out of fuel. I might try to put landing gear on this thing and try to make it mobile on the moon, because I'm trying to refuel a base up there that has a very distinct problem of being on like a 20-degree slope. This thing had rotor wheels or landing gear. I could take it over to it and drive it up the slope. Landing on the slope is just about impossible because of how tall this rig is. Matter of fact, if I can get this to the moon and stably land it on this test, I'm going to look into putting gear on it. Like aircraft gear. Oop, I just noticed something. We've got defunct solar panels on here. We need to fix that before we leave. Those are way out of date. We've got giant solar fans now that collect a much greater amount of power. They're also lighter, I think. So less mass, more power. You can't beat that combo. That's all win. All win. Nothing but win. However, I don't like them being near the ground. So we're going to put these panels up here, and I've got a good spot for them. We're going to place them right here. And that should make, yeah, a really nice array. Now, if I do decide to make this roll, we're going to have to put the panel. We're going to have to put the Gigantors back on and put them on the side so that they kind of like this, because then they won't strike the ground. The wheels will be likely facing that way. Yes, you'd have to use the really large ones. Got even more panels here that I don't need. Actually, there's an even better spot for them. About midway up. That should keep it kind of balanced so that all the weight's not trying to tip the top over. And that looks like it may have brought our weight down slightly. Please notice the improvised docking port nose. I actually need to see if I got a better cockpit for this now that may have an open nose piece. Do I have a shuttle with a nose end, a docking end? No, I do not have a shuttle with a docking end. So we'll just roll with what we got. To the moon! And of course, I forgot to action group the solar panels, but I'll do that one when we get back. Well, there's only 4 panels. It's not going to hurt to right click and open them. Prepare for a fountain of blue fire. Because that's what this thing flies on, is a fountain of blue. Well, except for the booster, of course. And we have liftoff. Actually, red, white, and blue. This is the most American aircraft you can get. I should have flown this baby on the 4th of July. I'm feeling all patriotic now, people. It is huge. What was that? Oh, Nightbot got angry. I need to adjust Nightbot settings, I guess. I left it on the custom. Not a lot of caps. I think it's got a 10 character limit. Personally, I don't care much about caps. I think I may remove that restriction altogether. Plane separation of the main booster stage. We are now in orbital ascent. I just gotta wait till we hit apoapsis and fire towards the horizon. So we should probably get a little forward momentum going right now. Switching to primary boost stage. Please note the amount of delta V with this engine. I don't know if you can read it on that end, but that's 6,000 delta V. Thank you, Mr. Bone. If you like what you see, please feel free to follow. Right now it's at 5,950 and falling as we expend it. Gorgeous Kerbin day. Now this thing is using closed cycle plasma. What that means is that the engines are superheating the fuel before expelling them. Getting our panels out. Now in this mode it also consumes megajoules of power. You'll notice the megajoules are starting to fall, but when I throw these out there, they're going to kick back up. We just need to accelerate time a little bit because it's going to be a little bit before our periapsis comes up. There is a possibility I may have to go to another boost burn. I think it's literally called a camera mod. I thought it was part of stock. So we're going to do a temporary main stage boost burn here, just to get us closer up to our objective of having a orbital velocity. And we will be hitting orbit shortly. But be careful with those kick burns though, they burn fuel really fast. No, that's close enough that I'm comfortable with not going all the way out. So let's see, we need to target the moon here. And where are we at in our orbit? We're right there, moon's there. Ideal burn location to get to moon will be just after we hit the dark side, right about here. Right above the derelict ground station. Clean things up a little bit. Alright, we are almost to our burn point here. Turn RCS on. I just noticed something. We have no navigation control. We must not have a pilot on board. Not a huge deal, but still a pain in the butt. Remember, this is just a simulation, just a demo mode of this particular mining craft. This is not actually part of the career that we're going to keep. It actually had nothing to do with this ship yet. Our infrastructure and our number of craft aren't sufficiently developed yet that we need an actual dedicated tanker as of yet. I just built it with the future in mind that I was going to need one. Now, ideally, what's going to happen with this type of craft is I can take it, since it's got a refinery on board, I can take it to the moon, sit on the moon, refine fuel, and either rovers can come to it, take the fuel, and drive off with it, or I can take it back up into orbit with the little bit it takes to burn and use it as an orbital refueling station, and then bring a probe to it, which can also go down to the surface of mine, bring ore back to it, and refine it in orbit. Yeah, it took about, I'd say 4 to 8 hours of very, very fine-tuning, customizing, picking the exact parts. I'm not familiar. This is my first time running through Interstellar, which is the mod we're using, and it replaces a lot of key component parts. For one example, the ore drill no longer actually drills ore, it drills a bunch of other stuff. But there is a universal drill which I have installed on this one, which will be able to extract ore when we get there. Mr. Bone, depends on the orbital body. If you put a space station around Minmus with this extremely low gravity, and then you send a small probe to the surface with just the ore containers, and it can mine a large amount of the ore, bring it back to the refinery. The refinery can refuel that probe with fuel from the ore that it brought up and still have leftovers. Yeah, this can do both. This can also do surface mining as well. And that's the point to it. It has the ability to do either. Say, for example, I came back from a mission and I can't make it all the way back to Kerbin for some reason, but I have enough, to get into orbit of Kerbin or even orbit of Moon. This craft could go, if I landed it on Minmus, could easily. We'll take that and we'll just refine it once we get there. So this craft could easily take off from the moon or from Minmus, go meet that particular craft, refuel it, let it return home. So it's an emergency recovery vehicle also. It serves many different roles outside of its primary. Because it has a docking port here for regular craft, and on the rear it has a small one for probes. And then on the back, on its thrusters, it has these connector ports, which are part of the KIS-KAS system, which will allow anything else with a connector port to link up to this vessel and drain fuel from it. The landing gear are back here. Yeah, it's a mid-space refueling tanker. or ground refueling tanker. And if I put gears on it, it may be a refueling rover. It isn't always efficient, no, but it can be cost saving, since this tanker can refuel itself over and over and over again indefinitely. Even though it costs a lot to get into orbit, I may not need another vessel. I mean, this thing's doing a job where you might need 3 or 4. So money-wise, it could be extremely efficient. It just may not be fuel efficient. But given that it can make as much fuel as it needs repeatedly, fuel efficiency really isn't the major concern of this craft. I think we'll try to set it down in that crater. I'll have to adjust the orbit slightly to the polar orbit. Things to remember when you got a west to east orbit, that's the normal orbit, and so normal will always, or north will always be a red line. But if you've got an inverted orbit moving west to east, then the normal anti-normal actually flip. Alright, so I know there's a nice little flat spot in that crater. And I think it's about right there. Alright, so I want to use ScanSat just to confirm that. Yes, it wants me to use the big map for that. And that's not the one I wanted. Silly moon. This is the big map? It looks awful small. Oh, I can resize it. There we go. Now I can read this thing. And that's not very useful. Why is it all color-coded the same color? There should be a gradient here. Let's go back to altimetry. That'll give me a better idea of what's flat, what's not. That's the flat spot I was talking about. Alright, let's mark that. So that's where we want to land. Zone SO103. Alright, we got our target marker. And it looks like we're already going to be passing very close to it, if not right over it. Oh, ScanSat is amazingly useful. It gives you pinpoint landing capability. Minimus has some of the craziest terrain I've seen of most of the bodies in the game. It has craters and crevices to which likes I've not seen anywhere else yet, except for maybe Moho. Alright, we are not actually going over the point yet, so we need to move that slightly. And we should see our orbit come up from the south on this map when it gets close to the zone. See? There it is. The blue markers are our current trajectory. The brown is where you would come through on the other side of the planet. Like when you pass around. Alright, we're now dead on course for our landing zone. Apoapsis is still higher than I'd like it to be, so we're going to go ahead and reduce it. My objective is to get to apoapsis under 20,000 meters. Looks like that's as close as we're going to get and be over target. Good enough. Alright, so this is where we go into our view. Put our gear out. Waypoint should be marked. I think we need a stronger RCS controller on this thing. Probably put one meant for this body size. The pack that this body comes with does come with its own RCS. I'm still using the 3.75, which is slightly weaker than it probably needs. We should be coming up on our landing zone. I'm not sure why it's not painting it. And sat, where's the target? I guess we'll have to go by the satellite over here. Which, by the way, is completely plausible to land by satellite. By the way, the only reason I have this information about the altimetry and stuff is because I got an altimetry satellite that has mapped all the moon at this point. I should be coming over it soon, I think. Yeah, we probably want to start braking now. And there goes the plasma plume. Now we should be right on target for our LZ. Now, the closer the blue dots get together means the orbit is shortening. When it starts to become a real compact group of blue dots on ScanSat, that means that you're pretty much landing at that point. When there's nothing wrapping around, when it just comes to a terminus, that means that wherever the last blue dot is where you're going to be touching down at approximately. Now, you don't always want to have the blue dots come straight to the point you're landing at because you may land short of it. You want a few dots just past the landing zone for an ideal approach. I do not believe so. So if you're doing an atmospheric landing, you've got to be a little bit more careful on that. I have used the satellite for an atmospheric landing, but usually that's using an engine that actually consumes atmosphere, so I usually eyeball my landing in an aircraft. See, I should be right on target now. All I have to do is drop. You notice the dots start disappearing the closer I get to the LZ, because what's happening is piece by piece the orbit is vanishing. Now the orbit on this side is going to start extending because I'm falling at a faster and faster rate. I just want to double check and make sure my gear extended. They did not, so I'll give the command again. Now notice we're starting to pass over the point where we want to land. So what I do at that point is I start killing our forward momentum a little bit more. And as we do so, this circle is going to approach the celestial floor of the navigation system. And there's our landing spot right there. That is the very shallow sloped region. At least that's what we're hoping for. If I land precisely, we'll be exactly where we want to be. The plasma plume takes a little bit to trickle off, so you got to make sure you time your drop or your flame out just right. Otherwise, you'll overshoot your flame out. Make it a little tricky landing the plasma systems because they burn for a few seconds after you shut off power to them. Please note our Delta V, we still have plenty of fuel left. I think they said it's like 800 Delta V to actually land on Moon with most craft. Now we're actually at an altitude of 12,000. So it looks like the altitude of the terrain and the above terrain and the altitude reading are fairly similar. So we may actually be below sea level just slightly, or below the average altitude of the moon's surface, I should say in this case, which would be what sea level effectively is for the moon. Now you notice the craft itself is coming down almost exactly on the point we want it. I can tell that's a fairly smooth LZ. There is a crater here which may give some slope, but it won't give much. What in the world is that? Did I land near an anomaly and not realize it? Oh, I bet that's shadows. Are those arches? Oh, it didn't land near an anomaly and I not even know it. That would screw my head so much. So we're going to start decelerating heavy now. It may look like we're close to the ground right now, but truth is we're still way up there. And the reason for that it looks that way is because of just how huge this craft is. That's one of the challenges of landing it. There's an optical illusion that the ground is much closer due to its sheer size. Or a little bit off the ideal target zone because I didn't zoom in the map. But it shouldn't be too bad. It's still in a flat zone. Now I'm doing what I call a blue plume. And that's just a really high power burn. Costs quite a bit of fuel, but great for braking. And now we're at a safe approach speed for low altitude. Again, we look close, but we're not really as close as we appear. We are still 1,000 meters above the surface, but this craft is so large, we could see touchdown at 100 meters. A good way you can tell how close you are to the ground is when you actually get close, the plasma plume will start to vanish. And that is a long plasma plume. There is a very slight slope here, but it doesn't look like it's a huge one. Contact in 40 seconds. We have to do this really slow approach because this thing is so huge. If you hit hard, you're going to smash it. I've landed at a firework. I can actually show you the arch. I think I've got it flagged. I know I've got the Armstrong Memorial flagged for sure. I think I've got one of the arches flagged too. Matter of fact, I've got every anomaly on Kerbin flagged. I've even got a YouTube video up where I go to each one of them and visit them. Approach speeds are nominal. I'm going to turn up the engine just slightly to try to get it down below 12 though. 12 is like the magic number for landings. But 3 is even better. Plasma plume check. Even though it looks like we're close to the ground, we're still quite a bit off it. The Armstrong one is on a crater rim. I'll show it to you in just a minute once we get landed and get mining set up. Yeah, we're getting really close now because we're starting to see our shadow. We have gear contact. Burning thrusters to correct attitude. Flat hop. Come on, stabilize. Stabilize. Why is it wanting to lean? much is it wanting to lean? Are we good? Are you okay? We are good. He is okay. Extending universal drills. Drills extended. Not enough power. How is that possible? We got tons of power. Like unbelievable amounts of power. I guess we have to select what we want to mine. No. Why is this thing wanting to slide? It's definitely on a slope, unfortunately. Well, something's running. We're getting ore. It's literally sliding down the hill. Thank you, vasectomy. That wasn't an easy one. When you have a tat craft this tall, any slope at all is kind of dangerous. Well, it takes a while to extract that thing. You're telling me these supermassive solar panels. I'm going to have to convert the electric charge into megajoules is what I'm going to need to do. So let's go here. In camera. Now what I've just done is I've told it to take as much of the power as possible that it's receiving and convert it from electric into megajoules. So it's now climbing on the megajoules. And we are getting ore, albeit very slowly. And we'll start the refinery warming up here. That may actually generate more megajoules because of our thermoelectric converter here, which is directly connected to the refinery as well, which should allow us to actually operate more drills. So it's kind of a self-feeding loop. Oop, I did not mean to actually turn on the power. Whoa, 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 whoa. I should have turned the engine off. Oh, good God. Well, this is a chance to make sure that we get off this slope. Happy second landings. Good thing this thing carries so much fuel. Retract it. Retracted drills. Fortunately, I don't think the drills have colliders. Otherwise, we'd kind of be hosed. Keep it stable, fellas. I love the RCS setup on this monster. Doing exactly what it was designed to do. Keep it from tipping over. Now, while I'm thinking about it, where's the engine? Come here. We'll do that again. We must never landed on a spot of the moon that had a high percentage of ore because it's barely getting any. But given that my main goal was simply to prove how this thing works and show that it can land, we've done what we wanted to do. So yeah, this thing can definitely go to the moon if I, actually pay attention to where I'm landing it and focus on finding an ore pocket. Then it can fill itself back up again. The denser the ore, of course, the faster the fill up. The last time that I had it on the moon, and I actually had it on one of the 5% zones, the ore refilled in approximately 18 days. But that was with mini drills. That wasn't with the universal drills. Now, another thing you'll notice is that it's also getting xenon gas, tritium, helium. Some of that's byproduct from a nuclear reactor, but parts of it aren't. I think the tritium may actually be from the moon itself. So go to the resource view and let's see how much tritium's here. Doesn't say. So maybe it is from the reactor. What about helium? Do we have helium here? No, that's not what it would be classified under anyway. It'd be part of a rock to extract it from. But yeah, I guess all of it's from the reactor breeding. So we also learned something else very important just now, and that is that the vessel can only actually power about 2 drills before starting to drain its megajoule supply. At least the universal drill types. Why in the world is it not converting all the electrical power that it's got? I mean, it's got a massive battery worth of electrical and it's not converting it to megajoule like it should. So something is telling it not to, or it's converting it back. So we got to check our stuff, make sure it's producing proper. Now this is another one of those situations where we don't have enough power for our reactor. If the reactor were stronger, it'd be able to operate all these drills, but we just haven't got the tech upgrades for it yet to do so. Because once the reactor is more powerful, it'll cause this to generate a lot more output. Right now, the output on this is very limited, 39%, so we haven't even got our thermolytic converter upgrades yet. Still kind of curious which part of this is causing it to convert the power to electric and not actually putting it into megajoules. I wonder if the panels can do megajoules. Nope. Alright, so demo mode is over. Let me go ahead, I want to revert flat back to vehicle assembly, because as I said, don't actually need to scrap right now. And I will show you where the Apollo Memorial is, or the Armstrong Memorial, as well as the Lunar Arch, since I have those flagged already. That's just a matter of visiting the tracking station and selecting the appropriate flag. And then we'll get on to doing an actual nightly mission of some kind. I'll have to check and see what we have on our mission list. I want to really thank you guys for hanging out with us tonight. It's always more fun when I have company I want to talk to. Don't feel like I'm talking to myself. Makes you feel a little crazy when you're doing that. Alright, so here's the list of all the flags we got. And the first request was looking at one of the moon arches, I think. That's the problem. I answer myself too. That or my cat does. Hey, Fibs. Don't eat wires. Here. This one has Pika. I've got to keep my eye on her, otherwise she eats our equipment. Crazy cat and her love of plastic. Now, I will tell you this much. We're about 2.5 hours in from the start of the Kerbal stream. Kerbal's starting to behave a little bit sluggishly. What that tells me is that the memory leak that plagues the Unity engine is starting to eat into it, which means we will probably have a crash sometime soon when we're doing a scene change. If that happens, it won't take me very long to get us back up and running. I'm just letting you guys know in advance that there's a possibility that leak's going to bite us in the butt very soon. So here is the lunar arch. Let me go ahead and get it into sunlight for us. And it has been up here 337 days now. And that's one of, I think, 2, maybe 3. But that's the first one. And then I think the other request was to see the Apollo Memorial, so let's find that one right quick. It's over near Moonbase 1. In fact, you may find it interesting to know that I actually landed a temperature probe on top of the memorial next to the flag. So you're about to see the flag and the first unmanned craft that I sent to the moon when I started the game, with only a temperature probe on it to do temperature missions. They're sitting side by side. I kind of keep it as a museum. And the pink you saw in the distance, Moonbase 1, is way over there. I had actually intended to land it here, but I kind of overshot. And it landed on a very steep slope. That's the one I've been trying to refuel that's in a really hard spot. Look at the hill it's on. You can see the hill from here. Very steep crevasse. But that is the temperature probe 1 that still has active engines. Still has quite a bit of fuel, I think, too. Yeah, she's nearly full. Doesn't really need the oxidizer, but I keep it on board in case I need to fuel something, because this thing can move between craft pretty easy. Got a little docking port right here, connector port, so it can connect up and give this oxidizer to craft that need it, because it doesn't actually use oxidizer. It just uses liquid through these candle nuclear engines. But that's my museum. While we're up here, we might as well visit the moon base too and just check and see if it has any science for us yet. My intent in the long term is to actually flag every single anomaly in the game. I have every anomaly on Kerbin already flagged. I'm starting on the moon. Yeah, I agree. It's actually the same coordinates that they landed at on the moon. So Mun has its Trinity Bay, and that was it. This is Moonbase 1. It's currently extracting its own fuel with an ad hoc refueling station in an attempt to rebuild its own fuel supply, which is taking a long time because it doesn't drill that fast and it doesn't convert that fast, but it is happening slowly but surely, and eventually it will return home once it's finished. But that may take a while because they have so much data to process that it's going to take forever for them to finish processing the data. 49 pieces of data that still remain unprocessed. Although we can drop that down some. So we need to fill the data back up to 750. Also, we have new science labs that we recently unlocked with the science that we did get from them and from all the labs. And it's much more efficient than this one, able to handle up to 1,000 pieces of data. Some of this stuff isn't worth very much because it's been beamed from like parts of the surface of Kerbin. And I think that taps us out. We're almost at max. We'll keep the rest. So much data left to process. This lab's going to be here for quite some time. These scientists are going to be working for who knows how long. By the way, it looks kind of weird for one particular reason. Where I'm using KIS, you can disassemble and reassemble craft. So what happened is I tried to land a refueling vessel right next to Moonbase 1. Well, unfortunately due to the slope, that's almost impossible. In fact, I'm not sure how I managed to get Moonbase 1 to land the way it did. But it did stay stable and remain stable to this day. So what I did was I took the crashed, well, to be more precise, Bill took the crashed craft, disassembled it, reassembled it, reattached all the pieces to it, reoriented the drills, and then started drilling and put solar panels on so that it wouldn't run out of power. Which it'll never run out of power anyway because where it's all strung together by these nectar joints, it's now drawing power from the onboard power system. Where is the onboard power system? I had a reactor on here somewhere. Well, there's a hydrox an alkaline fuel cell in here that can process hydrogen and oxygen into water for electric, but it's run its course. I think this thing has a small generator in it that's running, producing a small amount of power, but not much. Thank you for the follow! That is correct. I am from Kentucky. Edible rubber. Interesting name. Let's see, what's over here? Something off in the distance there, and I forgot what it was. Oh, that's that craft in orbit. Or, is it the craft in orbit? Yeah, it's the craft in orbit. Alright, back to the Space Center. Let's start actually doing a new mission. Yes, yes you do. You got it. You nailed it. Now, two missions we already have in progress. That is, one we have has a mission to send a probe to the surface of Eve, and another one has a mission to send a satellite to Duna. As you can see, we've got two in progress right now. Eve is approaching in 180 days a maneuver point, and the mission to Duna is approaching a sphere of influence change, where we'll enter Mars' influence in about 105 days. I try to avoid time acceleration because you lose the opportunity to run so many missions when you do that. Time will lapse as you do things like go back and forth between the moon or back and forth between the... Ooh, this one. That we can do. Testing a mobile smelter orbiting the sun. That will be so easy. All we basically have to do is send a rocket that can fire backwards in orbit as fast as it can go, straight up. And it will go into orbit of the sun, and then we'll test our smelter. Mission complete. Now this thing needs to be rather cheap so that we can actually make money on the mission. We need a basic delivery system capable of delivering a satellite out of system. So let's see what we have in our arsenal of tools. I think this thing is too complex because it has a satellite built onto it as well. Yeah, this one incorporates a satellite. We don't want to use that one for that reason. Basically, overdone, overbuilt. Not expensive, but it's still overbuilt. We can do cheaper. This is the updated science version of that one. I should actually delete the old one, because it didn't have the Science Junior and stuff on it that it really needed to do all the science work. At least I thought this one had it. First one with all the science on board. I've got one with all the science on both. I bet it's the A1 probe. Yep, the A1 probe had all the science on board, including the altimetry sat. So we can actually get rid of the Aries is defunct now. We can actually delete them. All they had was temperature probes, so I don't know why I did it, but I guess I was trying to minimize mission cost. There's a mission to just do a temperature scan on Mars, so I just sent a temperature probe. And I was like, I missed all that science after spending a year in orbit. What in the world was I thinking? I'll delete those to make sure I never mistakenly used them again. If you like rovers like that, you probably want to check out the probe I have on this one. It's a rover. I call some of the rovers probes because they're unmanned. I really think of a rover as a manned vehicle. So this thing is really interesting and fun to use on Duna and on any, pretty much, even on the non-atmospheric bodies, because it has 6 aircraft wheels forward and back that make it effectively so that the craft can never be upside down. It can flip. I mean, this thing can actually travel at about 60 meters per second on Duna. It does better in an atmosphere, but you can also use it really effectively on Minmus and on Moon. It takes even less fuel to move them on those worlds. Alright, so this isn't effective because it's also got a satellite built into it. This is a two-piece system. It delivers the communication satellite necessary to provide communication at the planet in one stage. And then the second stage, it delivers a rover capable of descending to the planet's surface while remaining in contact with the satellite. So it's a two-piece set, all delivered in one system. Oh, you all will like this one. The tweak scaled back booster. Oh no, wait. That's not the back booster one. I had one as like a size 3.75 back booster. It was hilarious. But I don't know what I did with it. Emergency rendezvous station. Recovery vessel. Here we are. This may get us out of orbit. Typically, this thing does geostationary satellite insertion. Here's the upsize back boosters. Look at these things. They're monsters. But they're nice, short stack monsters, which means they're great for making compact rockets. They do exactly what they need to do, and nothing else. So all we got to do for this one, we're going to reroute it. Wait, let's see if it's already rooted right. Okay, yeah, okay, we already got a good route. We can go ahead and get rid of that. That's the payload. And what we needed to test was an ore smelter. Under utility. Ore smelter, where are you? You're in here. Here it is. We need to test this thing, a mobile smelter in the orbit of the sun. Alright, so we're going to put a pretty simple system together for this. First off, it's going to need a probe core for guidance purposes. And this is going to be a disposable, so we don't have to put anything too fancy on it, just enough to do its job. Now I'm just using this to help build the probe. We'll relocate it here shortly. Once we have it set up correctly, we'll stage it properly. Alright, it's going to need power. And due to what I want to do with it, we're actually going to use a megajoule capacitor that has some electric built into it. Fortunately, they're not very expensive. I think we can upscale that Probodyne. Not sure though. Alright, it's going to need a couple of solar panels on it, and we're probably going to have to redo the fairing, but that's okay. There, now we have an octo that's appropriate to size. Reroute that, that. Come on, anchor. Thank you. All right, now we're going to need an engine section. Go ahead and get rid of this fairing for now. It's kind of in the way. All right, fairing's gone. Need something larger than that. Give me a tank. Just one basic tank here. And we want a hyper-efficient engine. Make sure that it reaches solar orbit once it's once it is out of Kerbin's influence. Okay, so we have power, we have control. I guess that engine cannot connect in line. That might be a problem. Alright. But since that cannot connect in line, come on. What we're going to do is put them on the side. We'll put maybe 4 of them on a small Mark 1 body. First off, yeah, that's what I figured. I'll be rerouted again. We're not going to be able to use a fairing with the engines that low, so we'll have to move them up a little. And we'll have to relocate these. Actually, I think we'll only need 2 of those engines when we're in orbit. Just to make sure the fuel is linked, we'll go ahead and put a fuel line between this and that. And since we'll have the engines there, we'll put those like that so they'll go out and they won't be obscured by these mounts. Mr. Bone, thank you for the follow. We don't need a whole lot of RCS control, but it'll be good to have some just to make sure we remain oriented. We don't need an extreme amount of control. The 2100, yeah, we want to use one of those. And then some cheap thrusters. We don't need anything major. We don't need more than 4. Alright, I think that's the cheapest we're going to be able to run on the upper stage. Let's make sure, see how much that contract's worth, because we're about where we want to be on our price. I got a funny feeling this way, because where it's solar orbit, it's going to be a ridiculous sum of money. And so this should be just fine. Yeah, ridiculous sums of money. We're in the clear. Once again, thanks to everyone who's keeping me company at this late hour. Not often I get crowds on Saturday mornings like this. I'm a late night streamer. I usually expect maybe 1 or 2 people to show up. So really appreciate your presence, folks. Now that is a wild looking rocket. I don't think I better deviate that one too much from its launch on the pad. Those are expensive if you use the full size, $345,000 an engine. Fortunately, when you do this, they get considerably cheaper. And we should have plenty of delta V to get where we want to go. And plenty of thrust. The TWR on the stages is looking good. Stage 1. Stage 2. I'll make sure all the major engines that we're using are set to hybrid plasma. It is very possible that we will no longer need this stage, stage 1, because these engines may be so efficient in delivering that we'll just simply not need it anymore. This will be a good test launch to find out, though. This is mission mode. If we do lose the craft, there is no revert. We lose the craft. Putting that reaction wheel back nearer the center of weight, center of mass, give a little better control. And just to make sure this thing doesn't go on a crazy wow due to the fact it's got a mushroom top, I'll put a little bit more control on the bottom here. Our satellite delivery system has evolved. I might should have renamed it. So this thing was originally only meant to deliver geostationary satellites, but I got a funny feeling the kick that I've just given to it with those new engines is probably going to make it go much further than geostationary. Oh, who's bringing in the host? Garnix, man, thank you so much for bringing the crew over. That memory leak is really trying to start to catch up to us. I hope we don't crash at this point. It could be bad to get a host and then suddenly go flat. Alright, we are good to launch. Remember, we're just going to go straight up, which means I need to make sure that we are firing in a direction which is conducive to us leaving Kerbin. We're going to be going straight up. Okay, so where are we positioned? Hey, we're almost in position already. Ideally, we want to be about right there. Waiting for launch window. Launch window confirmed. Current mission, everyone, is simply to test the particular part in the orbit of the Sun. We're firing backwards from Kerbin orbit. That means we're firing at dusk. And here we go. We are using 3 upscaled Bach boosters for the lower stage. There are no reverts. This is mission mode. If this thing goes boom, it goes boom. Hopefully it doesn't go boom. We have good liftoff off the launch pad. Hey, no problem, Mr. Bone. I understand that. Hey, spend time with your kid. We had successful insertion into high altitude. Got rid of the fairing. We now have initiated the hybrid plasma engines. We need to check our power supply, just make sure we're not tapping ourselves out too quickly. Power supply is looking good. Nah, I think I designed this one too well. Sorry, Mr. Bone. Wait to about 65,000 feet and start deploying the panels. Remember, all this thing has to do is go straight up. And with this engine efficiency, we're going to be going straight up forever. Although I'm beginning to think I should have probably action grouped those engines so I could toggle over to high boost mode, because it's looking like I may not have enough oomph to actually escape the gravity of curbing. Mind you, the rate of deceleration is decreasing. It's very possible it will break away as it gets further and further away from the surface. We'll just toggle two of them over. As long as it's symmetrical, it doesn't care. And onward we go. And this time, now it's not decelerating so much, just barely decelerating. How much thrust are we getting out of those now? 214 each. Great. We should start accelerating soon. Yep, speed's starting to tick up now. We're getting out of gravity's reach. Could turn on these upper stages to assist, but then I'd start draining the fuel out of it too quickly. You know, I think we need the oomph more than we need anything else. So let's throttle down again. We'll convert the remaining two engines over to full open cycle, and that'll give us a much larger kick. I thought the colors indicated to me that they were in the other mode. Now we'll get out of here real quick. Afterburn, baby. Space Cat's complaining because I'm not giving her enough attention. And there, right, Space Cat. Come on, Eclipse. Get in here. You sit right here, I'll pet you. Come on. Stop bothering Mama. He's asleep. Crazy cat. Oh yeah, forgot. We can extend our solar panels now. Uh-oh. For some reason, the engines didn't mirror on the top. That's kind of weird. Oh crap, that's going to be a big problem. Shut it down for now. Oh baby, go, you can do it. You might get your booms after all, Mr. Bone. Maybe not. Here we go. See how far it goes. And we have moon orbit, or sun orbit. Yeah. Heck, that'll almost make it to Moho. Unexpected times 10. Roll. With the panels are facing the sun. Fire the lower stage monopropellant out. Lock the upper stage monopropellant out for now. Yeah, the only problem is that this thing does not have any comms on it. It wouldn't make it to Moho. All it's got is that probe core. And I don't think these count as antennas, but I'm not sure. Very possible we'll get out to solar orbit and then I won't have comms. If that's the case, it's going to suck. But I do have this giant Probodyne core. Hopefully it has enough antenna to do its job. Antenna rating 800K does not seem promising. Engineer forgot. Space cat, get out of that. No, you're not supposed to. Get up here. Up in your chair. So I don't have to bring you out of the room. Crazy cat. And I think we just exhausted our monopropellant in the lower stage. Yep, that's gone. And I forgot to put a stage separator on the fairing. Okay, so there's a couple of design flaws that'll need to be fixed when I visit the assembly lab again. Oh, well, good news is that it consumed all the fuel up at the upper stage for us anyway. Because there is no upper stage, it's all one stage. Oh well, at least it got to where it needs to go. I am feeling like a minor doofus though. And Kerbal is acting very unstable right now. Alright, let's see what happens if this thing leaves urban influence. Will the Probodion be enough? Will it stay in range with the vast CurveNet network I have around all the other moons? Or will we lose it? Oh my, looks like we're going to lose it. We have reestablished contact. Excellent. But we're not in orbit of the sun yet. That takes a little bit more. We're starting to lose contact. Are we going to really lose contact as soon as we leave system? Oh, good grief. Oh, we got it back. We got it. Just enough to do it, I think. Mission complete. Yeah. Fortunately, I had an extremely advanced CurveNet system set up, and it just managed to keep in contact with the probe just long enough to be useful. Back to the space plane, back to the tracking station, and we'll detonate this junk. Well, it has now done its job, and that's all we needed it for. And the first thing I want to do is I want to tweak that design to make sure that it works properly for whatever part we need to test it for in the future. All the way down the list here to SDSGO. Oh, these are the parts that fell to the surface. Cover that. Cover that. And then send a detonation signal to the satellite. Igniting tech nuke. You know why you use a tech nuke on an expended satellite? Because you can't afford space junk to be floating around. So if you use a tech nuke, you atomize it. Better to have ionizing radiation in deep space than junk that can kill your craft later. Remember how I told you I flagged every single anomaly? There they are. Alright, back to the Space Center. Now, that mission took several days to complete. The good news is that means that allowed our labs to have time to develop 10 science per day, at the very least in some cases. So we should have a whole bunch of it waiting for us to pick up now. On top of the science we got for the mission. And we also have another slot in our mission list. Build a new orbital station around Ike. How many years do I have to do that? 35 years. I'll be able to do that a lot sooner than 35 years. Okay, let's go check our lab, see how much science they've cranked out. And the memory leak just got up to us. It finally went kaput. Reigniting Kerbals. And this will give you a chance to see all the mods that I use. Well, there's about 52 of them. Fortunately, it decided to crash after we completed the mission, after we saved it. Alright, so these are the mods that are currently in use. You will notice 3 of them aren't up to date, but that's because I tried to update them the other day and caused some problems. So I'm waiting for more current releases. So first off, we have the toolbar, of course, then all B9's parts. Then we got Kaleidoscope, which lets you see how parts are interacting. Community Resource Bank, which allows CCAN to function. The Community Tech Tree, which gives you the nice flexible tech tree that allows you to use all these nice mods. Cryo Engine, which is made by Nertia, which allows you to use the cryogenic hydrogen-powered engines in the early game. Near Future Spacecraft, which gives you all sorts of nice spacecraft parts to create more aesthetic-looking craft. And also more efficient engines and more efficient electrical systems. There's a custom barn kit which allows you to have a different look to your space center. Extraplanetary launch pads, which is one I look forward to using in the future to actually build craft in orbit and on the moon. But I'm waiting for, I need to get the technology to build a more effective starbase. We haven't got all the tools we need yet for that. There's Fire Spitter, ground construction, which allows you to build things on the ground. Hangars, which allow you to store items in hangars like on the moon, which is great for keeping your part count down. You basically deliver a hangar with a space crane that's 2 pieces and then just a little bit of a power supply, and then you can drive your rover into it, park it, and it takes it off the map, so you don't have that like 100-part rover sitting there contributing to the environment. Interstellar fuel switch, which allows you to change between different fuel types like the hydrogen, the liquid oxygen. The Kerbal attachment system, which allows you to connect craft together and attach things to them and detach things from them. So like you can move your solar panels around, you can move docking ports around and connect 2 craft together in orbit and actually assemble a craft in orbit without doing it in the VAB or the vehicle assembly building or spaceplane hangar. Yeah, that's what I was looking for. Kerbal Engineer, which allows you to see the stats on your craft. Kerbal Joint Reinforcement, which makes the joints a little bit stronger, but not much. Kerbal Inventory System, which allows your Kerbals to carry equipment around, which is necessary to work with Kerbal Attachment System if you want your engineers to be able to unscrew and reconnect things. That's how I built that little base on the moon. Bill went out there, disassembled a failed craft, and then repieced all the pieces together in a way that worked. So even though the landing failed, the mission still succeeded. It's just taken a little longer than expected to complete. There's Copernicus, which gives us the nice textures that you're seeing on some of these planets and allows us to replace a lot of the textures in the game. Modular Flight Integrator and NavHUD. NavHUD allows you the ability to see the nav ball projected onto your view screen so that you're not having to always look down at your nav ball. You can even close your nav ball and navigate from the nav head if you choose to. Docking port alignment indicator. This thing is extremely useful when you're docking and building stations. It makes sure it allows you to be certain that your craft is facing up relative to the docking port if you need to. There's all the near future suite here and the far future technologies, which gives you warp drive and some of these fun engines like the pebble bed nuclear reactors and the beamed power systems. Planet shine, which allows lights from space to reflect off the surface of the planet. Play your way, which awards you based on the science you collect cash instead of just on missions. So even if you complete, if you get missions or if you get contracts you really don't want to do, but you're still able to go out there and fetch the science, you can play the way you want to. You don't have to stick to the contracts. And it's good until if you don't have a developed contract system. Like I don't use a lot of imported contracts, but I will be using like crazy the new DLC they're coming out that lets you create the missions, because I plan on making many different contracts regarding building space stations, connecting to space stations, improving space stations. Thank you for that follow. And I hope that I've entertained you pretty well this evening. And what happened to Kerbals? Apparently I accidentally closed it when I went to check to see who followed. Unfortunately, the side effect of having a lot of mods is it takes a long time to get them all loaded. They're great fun, and you can do a lot with them. The one drawback to them is it's going to take you a while for your game to load. The average load time for me right now, I think, is about 2 to 3 minutes. We also have Precise Maneuver. Precise Maneuver allows you to precisely pick your target. I could pick a spot on a planet from any orbit using the maneuver nodes and guarantee that I'm going to land on that planet from like 3 orbits away, exactly where I want to hit with Precise Maneuver. Space Camp, get out of there. He's trying to get into our wires and eat them again. You are the most irksome co-pilot a person could ask for. Don't eat the wires, cat. There's ScanSat, which is extremely useful in allowing you to precisely pick your landing zone, and also check out slopes and bounds and make sure you're going to a place you want to go. Science Relay, and what that does is it allows you to bounce science from ship to ship as long as you have a dedicated relay dish on board. That's how I get my science from, say, Kerbin's surface up to the moon without having to send a ship. I can just simply transmit the data over KerbNet, as long as KerbNet's strong enough. And it sounds like it may be a little bit overpowered, but it's got its limitations. One of the rules is that basically the weaker your signal is, the less data you get from the transmission. So if I'm on Kerbin and I'm sending something to Minmus and there's like one Mark I antenna on a satellite in the orbit of Minmus that's providing the connection to that lab, then I want to get maybe 10% of the total tech from that upload. So I mean, really penalizes you if you don't have KerbNet set up right. There's the station parts expansion, which basically allows you to, gives you a bunch of rigging pieces to give you structural elements that look nice for your space stations. Stock visual enhancements, which is what gives you the beautiful sun that I'm using, as well as the God rays, the ocean reflections, and stuff like that. Although right now, a lot of people are not electing to use the ocean stuff because it kind of can cause problems. Like putting the space center underwater problems. It looks like the Great Flood. Then we have Sweet scale, that's what gave me the larger boosters that you were seeing earlier, the larger box, that allowed me to get the payload into orbit so easily. I love the enhanced, like the upsized box rather than the kickback boosters, because they're just so much shorter. And I don't like craft that are so long that they tower over everything and like threaten to tip over. I prefer much shorter. How would I describe that? Lower center of gravity rockets, stable rockets. Got Kerbal Alarm Clock, which is critical to any game where you're going to be playing for, doing multiple missions while waiting for craft to reach orbits of outer and inner planets. If you miss one orbital window, it can really hurt. Universal storage allows you to put more pieces of equipment like that the Kerbal will carry into different components on the ship. And also allows the swapping of fuel in some containers. And then there's Kerbal's Space Program Interstellar Extended, which is pretty much an overhaul of the science system of the game. It affects everything. It adds beam powers, adds nuclear reactors, adds warp engines. I mean, it's like 7 or 8 different mountable fuel types, from regolith to lithium and beryllium, and even antimatter and exotic particles. I mean, it's got some crazy stuff in it. I haven't even locked most of Interstellar. I cannot wait to get some of the better engines in it, because the efficiency ratings as you get technology pieces, the ISPs start going through the roof. And then there's X-Science. X-Science basically is an alert system that lets you know if you've changed biomes so that you can pick up science there. Great for science missions, and when you're first orbiting Kerbin, it'll go off constantly telling you, hey, you just went over a new biome. Hey, you just went over a new biome, but make sure you don't miss anything. And you don't have to actually go to the part on your craft if you don't want to collect the science. It actually gives you buttons in a pop-up window. It's all neat and sorted together that allows you to collect it all at one time. Some people like to poke around their craft, open things up, close things up so that you can, get the science. I personally like to be able to just get my science to get the mission done and get moving. It doesn't matter if as long as I have the piece on board, I should be able to collect it. That's my philosophy. All right, so it looks like we are done loading the mods, so let's go ahead and close this out. And that's very weird. Kerbal's just crashed again. Looks like I'm going for a system reboot, folks, because it looks like it's not restoring itself from the crash, meaning that more than likely the RAM just needs to rest or reload itself. So it looks like that's going to be our end of our stream for this evening. We've been streaming now for 3 hours and 43 minutes. We will pick up tomorrow with just doing the next mission on the list. I don't know what that is yet, so we'll have to check it then. But I'll also be correcting the few flaws on that satellite geostationary delivery system, adding the staging piece, adding the communications, and then we should be go to deliver the next satellite in the list if we need to. So if you've liked what you've seen so far, I'll be back streaming probably, well, it is a Saturday, but it won't be. I'll be doing some tabletop gameplay tomorrow about 3 o'clock, so I'd say expect me sometime just before or at midnight Eastern time if you want to come back and join me. So look forward to seeing you then. Have a good night, everyone.